Hey, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council. My name is Ardo. I'll be up here tonight. I wanted to thank you for coming in on May 23rd, right before Memorial Day weekend. It's going to be a busy weekend. I want to thank all the veterans that served this country on Memorial Day weekend. I want to thank Hilltop Community Church for recording this and allowing us to use this facility. Don Gosney, he's also recording it, and we'll be on Zoom, Facebook, and you'll be able to ask questions if you're watching this on Facebook. Please like and share. Before we get started, I'd like to have the beat officer come up and give his report for the neighborhood. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Officer Law. Just kind of give a brief background about myself. I've been with the Richmond Police Department for about 6 years. Prior to working for Richmond Police Department, I worked for Napa State Hospital Police Department. I did that about for a year and a half. Currently signed to the Northern District, B-Date, and my time of hours I work is from Monday through Thursday from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning. Today I'm basically going to discuss the crime stats from the past 60 days that are Fairmede neighborhood specific, and then I'll open up for discussion for any concerns, complaints that are in the neighborhood. So our top 10 incident reports that we're having in the Fairmede neighborhood. So we had 12 vehicle thefts, 6 auto burglaries, 5 domestic violence calls, 4 credit card fraud calls, 4 thefts, 3 misdemeanor domestic violence calls for service, 3 mental health evaluation calls for service, 3 vandalisms, and 2 court order violations. And our top 10 calls for service that we have are abandoned auto, which are 62 calls in the past 60 days, 47 security checks, 37 traffic stops, 29 disturbances, 25 alarm calls, 24 music calls, 19 motor vehicle thefts, 17 welfare checks, 16 suspicious vehicles. And these stats were gathered for within the 60 days. With that said, is there any issues in the Fairmede neighborhood that anyone would like to discuss? I'll leave it for any questions at all. Yes, ma'am.
We can't hear you. Could you come up to the mic? I'm sorry. Yeah, if you have anybody else have any questions, we have a microphone up here available for your questions. Thank you.
Stealing copper from the landlines. But if you guys do see anyone taking copper or from the landline, just give us a call and we'll try to get there as fast as we can.
I got a question. I'm having problems with people flying drones. And you know, when I call in, the officers never call or come back to my area. And I think that's invasion of privacy, especially if you got a jacuzzi and stuff in your backyard. And they said they're flying to a certain area. But I mean, FHA is saying nothing, and you guys don't say nothing. I mean, in the book said we can't knock the drone down, but the drone is really not made for this area unless he's doing some real estate or he's working on a high-rise, checking out windows. So mostly, that's telling me he's a prowler or he's a burglar. He's watching you. He's watching your area because the drone is set up remote. It can go, come back, land at its destination, fly over, do a review of the area, and then the person that's operating it could download it and upload it. I mean, what are you guys doing about that?
Absolutely. So what area exactly is this?
Hilltop.
Hilltop?
Shane, Groom,
Okay.
back area.
And is there a certain time that you see this drone?
Well, my dogs usually bark around, he's not been doing it because I complained it a couple times, but, it's around like 10, 11 o'clock. You can hear it, bzzz, and it's moving pretty fast, and what is he doing? If he's surveying his yard, if he's surveying his yard, he should just stay straight up where he's at, but he's going all the way from Hilltop to all the way down to the back of the college, to the right side, to the back side, all the way to the park and back up. And, I went and talked to him a couple times and, he's like, oh, I'm just doing it. But I was like, but you're not doing no real estate work, so why are you flying this? Shouldn't you fly it at a park?
Yeah, well, thank you for your question, appreciate it. Maybe you can give him your card?
Absolutely. And we could talk afterwards.
Hello, this is my first meeting, and I've lived at Hilltop Village for 30 years. So I was wondering, what does the Fairmede Hilltop neighborhood encompass? Is my neighborhood part of that, Hilltop Village?
No, that's a separate neighborhood.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
but I still want information about what's happening at the mall.
Thank you.
It's okay, I can stay?
Yes, absolutely, you can stay. All right, well, I guess that's it.
All right. No more questions? All right.
Thank you. Thank you, and stay safe out there. Before we get to the meat and potatoes of this meeting, I just wanted to add that in our neighborhood, we've had a lot of complaints about coyotes, and I'm asking anybody that has issues with coyotes, because there's a lot of cats missing, about 30, 35 chickens have been taken, so please do not shoot them, because the bullets, they'll go right through them, and you don't know where they're going to end up. So if you see a coyote, there's really not much you could do. An air horn is the best remedy to chase them away. So before we move on, I wanted to thank the City of Richmond for helping us, the RNCC, the Richmond Neighborhood Coordinating Council, to get a $750,000 grant. $250,000 is earmarked for 20 neighborhoods in the City of Richmond, and they span the whole spectrum of the city. So we're looking forward to dispersing that $15,000. There'll be a lot of rules and regulations, so look forward to some communications from the RNCC and the City of Richmond. Stephanie Nye deserves a big round of, she deserves a lot of credit. She worked very hard to get that grant. So that being said, I guess we're ready for our city planner to come up and give her presentation. I'd like to present to you Lena Velasco from the City of Richmond.
I'm a lot shorter than everyone else, so. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Lena Velasco. I'm the Director of Community Development, and just first appreciate the Fairmede Hilltop Neighborhood Council for inviting us, as well as the Hilltop Community Church for hosting us, and just appreciate you all and your interest in the redevelopment of Hilltop. So what we wanted to do this evening, and I will just provide a little bit of context. I think when we had previously scheduled this meeting, we thought that we would have already presented to the Planning Commission a land plan and would have had some feedback from some decision makers, and we were on our way to go to City Council for a similar presentation of the land plan. Approximately about 2 weeks ago, the city was approached with a potential economic development opportunity that we are now going to take a pause to explore if this opportunity will bring something additional to the community. And so I just wanted to start that off, that we are taking a little bit of a pause, but what we did want to do is provide you an update. We do think it's important. We obviously understand this is an important piece of property, and the redevelopment is important to all of you as it is to the city and the property owners that are affected by this specific plan. So I just am going to provide a little bit of that context. We'll have some questions. My colleagues, Hector Rojas, who's our planning manager, will also be supporting the presentation. And also wanted to acknowledge Matthew Newbommer, who's one of our senior planners and is also supporting this effort. And then also want to acknowledge our mayor is here and several council members. And so thank you for their continued support and interest in the redevelopment of Hilltop. So next slide, please. Oh, actually, could you do the city's presentation? Perfect. Next slide. Okay. So I just wanted to provide some context. I don't know how many of you have been involved in the process thus far, but if you have been involved, if you can raise your hand, have you participated in a Zoom meeting, have gone to the website, have shared any input, provided any interview information within the process, supported a survey that may have informed? If you have, if you could just raise your hand. Okay. So it's about half of you. So there's a lot of folks still that, are wanting to learn more, and we definitely will provide information this evening about how to get involved and how to receive notifications. So just providing a little bit of context, prior to the new owner, which is now Prologis, we were in discussions with the previous owner about doing a specific plan, trying to understand that there's some challenges to redevelopment. They wanted to explore different land uses, including housing, life sciences, commercial activity. And so some of the things that we looked at to support that effort is we went to the city council and nominated the Hilltop area as a priority development zone. And a priority development area is an area that's expected to grow over the next 20, 30 years, and it's near and supported by transit services. So the City Council made the nomination. It went to the MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, the Association of Bay Area Governments, and they all agreed that Richmond should be an area that's redeveloped and helps us achieve growth, whether it was employment growth or housing growth, but it would be a combination. So that was done in about 2020, and actually it was nominated just in February, slightly before the COVID pandemic. Which was a good time to start really looking at it, because we also know COVID affected the brick and mortar commercial businesses, and during that time period, we've seen additional stores close at the mall. We also know that the city has a regional housing needs allocation, and we have housing obligations to meet over the next 20 to 30 years and beyond. And so really starting to look, where can we provide new housing opportunities, new employment opportunities within the city? And there's obviously some underutilized land within the Hilltop Mall area and some of the surrounding properties. We also wanted to investigate whether or not the general plan vision, which was the high-density mixed-use district, was the appropriate vision, which was established in 2012. So it had already been almost 10 years in which this vision, and we hadn't really seen a lot of the change that we were all hoping for. So it was a good time to go back and say, okay, let's revisit. Are there changes that are needed? Are there new technologies, new uses that we should be encouraging here? So we were able to receive, there were 2 state funding sources that are supporting the development of the specific plan. The first one is provided by the Department of Housing and Community Development, known as LEAP. These are local early action planning grants that are provided to cities, and so we received a grant of about $500,000. And then we also got a grant from MTC under the Priority Development Area designation of $750,000. And so that allowed us to grow the team, which we'll talk a little bit about the consultant team that's supporting this effort. And then during that time period, we also saw a change in ownership. It wasn't something we were expecting, because we had been in conversation with the landowner at the time, and we had talked about the specific plan. And so when the property transferred, Prologis came to us and we let them know that this was an ongoing effort and asked that they pause on coming forward with any proposals. And conversations since. Next slide, please. So just to talk a little bit about what the Hilltop specific plan, which we branded as the Hilltop Horizon specific plan, we're looking forward, want to see the redevelopment, and so we've come up with a logo and we did branding, and that was early on and informed by some of the community input we were receiving. And just to note, the project area includes more than just the mall site. It includes some of the surrounding properties, which we know some of them are also underutilized and vacant, but there's also opportunities to interface with those properties, and so wanted to make sure that we looked at both of those things in tandem. So the goal of the project is to really look at the transformation of the plan, trying to figure out how do we make this area less auto-oriented retail center, but then also looking at a higher intensity mixed-use destination. And when we say mixed use, it doesn't necessarily, the building needs to be mixed use, but within the area, we're meeting a range of uses, both in housing, but also in commercial activity. And that was part of the process that through the different community workshops we've been hearing and learning more about, which Hector will talk about. So next slide. Just in red, you can see the boundary of the project area. It's about 143 acres. We're looking at everything from utilities to open space, to parking, height limits, development standards, that will all be covered within the specific plan. So how do we get to the specific plan was really trying to find a comprehensive team. And so the team includes Environmental Science Associates, also known as ESA, Site Lab Urban Studios, they're an urban design firm, BAE Urban Economics. So we wanted to understand what are the drivers in the economy that are helping inform this land plan. Fair and Peers, we want to look at circulation, look at transportation or transit opportunities, and many of you had those ideas and also wanted to see that. So, and then NCE, local engineering firm that's helping us look at the utilities. So we need to make sure that the utilities and the infrastructure can support the development that we're envisioning, and if it can't, how do we upgrade it? What are the changes that are needed to support that overall vision? A3GEO is, they do parking analysis, so looking at different parking use. And then CHS Consulting, similar, looking at transportation and other circulation opportunities. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Hector, and thank you all.
So thank you, Lena. Again, my name is Hector Rojas. I'm the planning manager for the city. I'm also proud to be the project lead on the Hilltop Horizon specific plan. And next slide. The meeting objectives for tonight include providing you with an overview of the land use planning for the specific plan area. We're also going to be providing an update on the current status and next steps, as well as indicating some future opportunities for public engagement that we have. Next steps, or next slide, I'm sorry. So part of the things that are informing the drafting of the land use plan include the existing conditions reports that have been developed by our, the glare is blocking my view of that slide, so I'm just gonna refer to the slide over here. I didn't bring my glasses today. But the city and its consultants developed a series of existing conditions reports and market study. Those documents are really helping the city to determine what kinds of development challenges and opportunity exist in the plan area. To date, we've engaged a variety of stakeholders, including the neighborhood councils, select landowners, including Prologis, and we've also held study sessions with the Planning Commission and City Council at the end of 2023. Next slide. So some of the key themes and planning drivers that emerged from that community engagement included attracting new businesses and entertainment opportunities, providing for more housing choices in the plan area, promoting new land uses that stimulate the local economy, also providing a mix of land uses, promoting safety, promoting employment opportunities, emphasizing community sustainability, and lastly, enhancing community mobility and connections. Next slide. So the next set of slides is going to walk you through the progress that we've made so far on the land use planning. As Lena indicated earlier, in 2020, the city received 2 grants. I won't spend too much time on that, but that was the LEAP grant from HCD and also the PDA planning grant from MTC and ABAG. And one of the things I wanted to add is that these 2 grants are given to communities in the Bay Area like ours who are really looking to increase housing stock, provide employment opportunities, and connect those housing opportunities and employment opportunities to public transit. Next slide. So these slides just update you on the progression of the land use plan. In Q2 of 2021, as you heard from Lena, Prologis purchased the Hilltop Mall site. That site is 78 acres. It's highlighted on the map here on the screen in orange. And that represents about 55% of the land coverage for the plan area. In 2021 and 2022, Prologis developed their initial concepts for the mall site, which predominantly included employment industrial uses, as well as some limited retail and housing opportunities. Next slide. So in 2023, the city was really busy developing its own land use alternatives. And those alternatives really look to embrace the key planning drivers that I mentioned earlier. It looked to address community goals, take advantage of Hilltop's qualities, which include its placement and its views. And really, these land use concepts were also looking to provide different options for both near-term and long-term development. Next slide. And so our consultants and the city took a shot at the first initial set of land use concepts. The first round is shown up on the screen. I apologize that the color's a little bit off. I do want to add that we'll have the slides on the Hilltop Horizon Specific Plan website so that you could take a clearer look at that. But all of these plans at the top include bringing in the surrounding roadway network into the Hilltop Mall site. They also add opportunities for access for open space, mixed uses, employment and industrial uses, and higher density development. So once we took a look at all those 3 options, we narrowed them down to 2 land use concepts. Those are concepts A and B that are shown on the bottom portion of the screen. The concept A primarily looks to place employment and industrial uses up towards the northeast section of the mall site. And then concept B would replace the employment and industrial uses with a mixed-use office designation. You'll note in both of the concepts, there is mixed-use residential that would be planned for the core part of the Hilltop Mall site. Next slide. So at the same time, we were sort of wrapping up the city-led alternatives. Prologis brought on a housing developer partner, and that partner is Signature Development Group. Signature has a lot of experience in the Bay Area, developing anywhere from low to high-density residential housing. So we were really excited to see the possibility that not only we would put this specific plan together, but that it also could have some legs and really get implemented soon after the plan was adopted. So you see the 2 options that Prologis and Signature developed in conversations with the city and doing their own public engagement. Again, apologies for the clarity on the slides here, but I'll start with concept B. Really, the features there are bringing in Robert H. Miller Drive into the Hilltop Mall site, connecting all the way up to Close Way. There's also a pedestrian and bike component to this. The Ring Road, which is Hilltop Mall Road, would be converted to a pedestrian trail, and specifically the northern portion of Hilltop Mall Road from Hillview Drive, I believe, to Close Way would be converted specifically for pedestrian and bike use. By way of the land use planning, concept A would include about 20 to 21 acres of retail use. That would include the retention of the Walmart site. And then as far as residential uses are concerned, that's indicated there in the yellow, up to 50 acres of medium density residential. The last component I'll touch there is a parks and open space component. We were planning for some pockets of open space and park at Hillview Drive and also at Close Way. With land use concept A, almost identical to concept B, The only difference is offering the opportunity for an employment industrial use up at the northwestern portion of the Hilltop Mall site. Next slide. So we took all of the land use concepts that I just walked through and presented those to the Planning Commission and City Council at the end of 2023. And we got feedback from them as to what they liked about the concepts and what they'd like to see. And some of the feedback that we heard was really targeting implementation of the plans within the first 5 years of the plan's adoption, while considering opportunities for long-range development. As far as connectivity, they wanted to see us connect people and places through a robust open space network, and also provide opportunities for multimodal transportation, including pedestrians, bicycles, and whatnot. With respect to housing, they wanted to see a mix of housing types at different densities. And they also wanted to make sure that we created neighborhoods that were safe and walkable environments. With regards to retail, Planning Commission and City Council wanted to see a range of small to large-scale retail formats, but also taking into account that these environments should be walkable. Lastly, with regard to employment, they wanted to see the creation of opportunities for healthy wages, options for union representation and the development of the plan area, and also youth opportunities. Next slide. So after we met with the Planning Commission and City Council, city staff and its consultants kept meeting with Prologis and Signature to further refine the land use plan. And I'm happy to announce that as of last month, we had reached alignment with that group to put together a draft land use plan, or a work in progress land use plan that we were prepared to present to the Planning Commission and City Council for further input. That land use plan, which will be on the next slide, incorporates the direction from the Commission and the City Council, provides for a range of uses, emphasizes housing and open space, and provides a framework for mobility and retail uses. And lastly, it also provides ground floor activation, enhanced experiences with existing and new connections to retail, schools, businesses, and housing. Next slide. So this is that work in progress land use plan. I want to let you know that you're among the first group to actually see this plan. It hasn't been shared with the Planning Commission and City Council, with the exception of the few council members here that are here tonight. Sort of walking you through the main features of this plan, you'll notice that many of the concepts that were included in the past land use plans are incorporated here, specifically having Robert H. Miller Drive continue into the mall site, connecting to Close Way. We also have the pedestrian bicycle trail at the northern portion of the Hilltop Mall site, and we have mixed uses at the center connected with open space opportunities. And as Lena mentioned, we are taking a pause at this point in time. There has been a major development in terms of somebody that's interested in getting featured in this plan, and that is a major economic development that could have major consequences for taking advantage of employment opportunities in the land use plan area. Next slide. So the last set of slides provide a quick overview of the three major components of the land use plan that is work in progress. The first one in relation to housing, the plan would accommodate between 5,000 to 7,500 dwelling units. Lena mentioned our RHNA, our Regional Housing Needs Allocation. This is a considerable amount of housing, and we're really excited that this plan area alone could represent a huge opportunity for meeting our RHNA requirements. That development, of course, would be subject to the city's existing city inclusionary housing ordinance. That ordinance requires developers of housing to set aside a small portion of that housing for affordable housing development, or also pay an in lieu fee so that that development could be considered in other parts of the city. The work in progress land use plan housing component also offers a range of residential densities ranging from medium to high density, and also takes into consideration that there should be some buffers and transitions between the uses. Next slide. So this slide provides an overview of the different housing types that could be anticipated as part of the housing component of the work in progress land use plan. As you could see, ranging from 10 dwelling units per acre all the way up to 110 dwelling units per acre. I believe the work in progress land use plan actually goes all the way up to 200 dwelling units per acre in some limited areas. But again, this provides you sort of a visual to kind of understand what it means to have 10 to 20 to 30 to 40 dwelling units per acre on a part of the land use plan. Next slide. And now I'm going to jump into the mixed use component. So the mixed use component would allow retail only development or horizontal or vertical mixed use development. The zone is located along the primary roads of the Hilltop Mall site and other areas in the perimeter, and strategically places certain uses such as the parks, the trail system, and high-density residential along those mixed-use corridors. Next slide. And then here is the last major component of our work-in-progress land use plan. This is the open space, and key components of that would be to locate a neighborhood park adjacent to retail and the residential core, providing opportunities for paseos, urban plazas, a social gathering area, and recreation areas. We also want to create a trail system that connects homes, services, and the Hilltop Mall or Hilltop Lake Park. Next slide. And so, yeah, the next steps here is sort of to take a pause and really begin discussing with that potential economic driver how they could potentially fit in the land use planning for this project. We still want to be able to come back to the Planning Commission and City Council with a land use plan or land use options that include that major economic driver for consideration, and hopefully end up with a preferred land use plan that we can use to develop the full specific plan, which won't only include the land use plan, but as Lena mentioned, development standards, land use policies, urban design guidelines, et cetera. Once that land use plan is confirmed, we're also going to begin our environmental analysis, which will look at potential impacts to the environment, including traffic and et cetera. Next slide. So this shows our tentative schedule as of now. I don't know if you can make it out, but sort of in the middle is that baby blue color. We're in the preferred plan selection and technical studies in 2024. As I mentioned again, we're going to be taking a pause to have a conversation with that potential economic driver, but we still want to come back to the Planning Commission and City Council towards the end of the year with a land use plan, and then we're going to go ahead and fully develop the specific plan for the rest of 2025, and hopefully come back to Planning Commission and City Council for adoption of the specific plan sometime in 2025. Next slide. So that wraps up the city's presentation. I do want to mention that we do have a project website. It's https://hilltophorizon.com. I failed to provide it here on the slide, but for those of you that have something to take a note down, just write down my email address, and I'm happy to send that to you. We will have further engagement opportunities, as I mentioned, as we develop the land use plan. We'll be coming back to the Planning Commission and City Council, and those public hearings are going to be noticed. We'll provide notice on our website, send out notices through the mail, and just try to keep you informed that way. There's also a Notify Me on the website that you could go to sign up for notifications about events that are happening with the Hilltop Horizon specific plan. So make sure to just go to the city's general webpage to sign up for those notifications. So with that, I appreciate the time and having you guys invite us to provide you with an update on the specific plan.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Planning, Lena and Hector, for all your hard work. For those of you that are on Facebook or social media watching this meeting, I want to thank the mayor, City Council Bana, City Council member Cesar Cepeda, City Council member Melvin Willis for coming. These are important times. There's movement finally at Hilltop Mall, and I'd like to say there's quite a few neighborhood council members in the audience: Parchester Village, North and East, Hilltop District. I'd also like to say that we've been working with Prologis from the very beginning. When they came in and talked about a logistics center, everybody pushed back and they listened, and they changed their tune. So they do listen, and I'd like to invite Prologis up to the stage now and say a few things. Where's Signature? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Ardo, and thank you, everybody. My name is Bill Rose, and I manage Prologis' entitlement program for California. I want to start by saying, prior to Prologis, 3 years ago, I was a city planner for many years, and I worked in a number of cities in the Bay Area. I've been to a number of neighborhood meetings like this, and I can say that this is probably the best, most organized that I've seen. The attendance and turnout is commendable, and we really thank you for being here. I say that on behalf of all of Prologis. There's not too much to say. The city staff has done a wonderful job. They've been great partners throughout the process, and their presentation tonight, I think, really summarized what we've been working on and where we are. We're going to let Signature go through a little bit more detail on some of the plans that we've been working on, and then I think we're going to quickly get to the heart of the matter, which is a question and answer session. So we'll all be seated up on stage and we can take your questions. Our goal is to move forward with this project in a timely manner. We've heard that from the neighborhood, that there is a sense of urgency, but we don't want to do that at the expense of this beautiful site, this beautiful neighborhood, and this great city. That is our goal. We want to give this site, this neighborhood, and this city the best possible project that we can. We know it does take a little time to get there. We also know that it takes your help. It takes your input. So you'll see a couple new faces tonight, myself included, and two of my colleagues that we'll introduce in a few minutes. We're not new to development. We're not new to Prologis, so to speak. We are a little bit new to this project, but we're getting up to speed very quickly, and this is just, it's an amazing site. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Signature, and they're going to walk through a few more slides. Then we'll bring the whole team up here, and then we'll take your questions.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you, everybody, for coming out. Really appreciate your attendance. Means a lot, actually. My name is Jonathan Fern. I'm Senior Vice President with Signature Development Group. Joining me on stage is Mike Gometti, who's our President and CEO. We're just really glad to be part of this team and have this opportunity to really shepherd this transformation, which we hope will be a really net positive for the city of Richmond. As Lena and Hector have mentioned, we do have a little bit of a road in front of us. There is a specific plan that needs to take place, and we have to agree upon a land use plan, and that's what Planning Commission and Council ultimately need to do down the road. And that needs to occur before we can actually do our specific proposal. So what we're going to show tonight isn't numbers and buildings and things like that. But what we want to show is really kind of what we've heard from the community up to this point. Imagery about how we envision what can become here, but all of this is going to flex as we move forward, given input from the community, the stakeholders, some people like yourself, future meetings, so on and so forth. So, just want to kind of level set that way as well. So next slide. So, as we know, and I think most people know here on stage, is that Prologis and the Signature Group control the 77.7 acres, which really constitutes the mall. The greater specific plan is another 60-something acres to total the 143. And if we can have the next slide, what we've heard, and Hector laid out, very eloquently, is that the community wanted a number of different things. And one of them that we heard was open space. And so just to give an image of kind of what we're thinking around open space, if we could have the next slide. There was some mention of it, but what we heard is there needs to be like kind of a central park, a central area to gather. And so that's one of the things we are looking to incorporate into our site plan, is kind of a central type park. It's not, it'll be multifunctional, allow for a number of uses. It'll have areas for children's play equipment, places just to recreate in grass fields or ball courts. We envision, this is where food trucks can come, farmers markets potentially, but somewhere that folks can kind of gather on site that is a open space area. But in addition, if we can go to the next slide, we also are looking at different types of open space. And so Hector also mentioned looking at the Loop Road. And there's an opportunity there to turn that into somewhat of a linear park. So a place where you can ride your bike, you can walk your dog, you can go for a jog, or you can simply just hang out. But the way it's kind of looking at right now, we're thinking about taking advantage, obviously, of Hilltop Lake Park, seeing it on the kind of the northern edge of the plan area. And so we can kind of take advantage of some of the existing resources and amenities that exist within the city as well. Next slide. What we also heard is a desire for neighborhood serving retail and kind of experiential retail. And so we don't obviously have tenants that we have signed up at this point in time. It's something that we're going to need to work through and work on. But certainly in this kind of area that we're seeing here, having food and beverage, having places that you can go to do kind of your daily shopping and sit outside and enjoy is kind of the picture that we're trying to paint, and what ultimately we hope we can kind of bring to this to the ultimate plan. Next slide. One more if we can. Oh, okay. So working on that. I think that the next slide, what we wanted to show, and again, Hector alluded to this, is housing. I mean, housing is a big part of it, big part of the plan. That's what we heard, and what we wanted to do was kind of mimic what is happening already at the Summer Lane community in terms of product type, predominant product type, and kind of bring that into what we have as the current mall site. So looking at, products that are townhomes similar to what exists now, to basically kind of make it make the project consistent with what the urban fabric is, and try to weave that in to what exists out there now. And what we'd also like to do, sorry about it, guys, kind of throw me off with the frozen slides. But anyway, what we also would like to do is have the project connect into the larger neighborhood. And so there's an existing bike network that exists that we would like to have our bike facilities within the specific plan connect to. We'd like to, as Hector mentioned, have the ring road be reduced in size to allow for bike lanes, multimodal transportation, have the ability for pedestrians to walk, and so on and so forth, and really just connect into the larger plan area. And then lastly, we do have a little bit of high density housing, but sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. But just a little bit of it, and it's going to be about 5 stories or whatever. So that's the general gist of it, and I think we can just turn it over for questions at this point in time. Sorry, guys. Jesus Christ.
So if anybody has any questions, please line up here behind the microphone. I want to thank everybody for their participation, and also next week this same company will be meeting at the Hilltop District Zoom meeting. So please, if you can go to hilltopdistrict.org for more information. I'd like to ask the mayor if he's got any questions, or city council people to come up, and we'll start with them. They'd like to announce themselves, or if you have any questions. Well, you know, if you, okay, we've got a Brown Act question here, so would you like to come up and ask a question?
My name is James Sanders. I'm the chairman of a committee called the 7-Eleven Committee from the school district. And my question relates to the demographic projections for the residential housing. At issue for my committee is we have a school site that's not too far from where I'm standing that does not have a school on it. And this committee is dealing with, well, what do we do with this school site given the projections at the moment so far as enrollment is concerned? So can you make some comment as to what you think the nature of the community will be that will be taking up residence in the residential housing that you plan on developing? And specifically, if there are some ballpark numbers, some probability cloud, what do you think, what do you anticipate?
Yeah, so I think if I understand, I'm Mike Gilmetti with Signature, everyone. Thank you for having us. Sorry, we were having a hard time hearing. Your question was around the demographic projections, I think, and basically the amount of people that may be in the houses and potentially the amount of houses that would be there. And I'd love to be able to answer it, but I think right now it's premature given that we're not sure how much land area will be given to housing, and we're not sure at this point what the exact densities would be. Again, we're anticipating more townhome type projects that are similar to the areas around, but I don't know that we could give you, I wouldn't want to give you a number right now that would pinpoint either a population base or a housing base or even an acreage of housing.
Yeah, and what I can add as well, that when we do the environmental review, once we know what the build out or the project, the development is, we will do population projections, and we'll look at everything from fire service, police service, to utilities and schools as well, to make sure that we have adequate, that we've planned for the population growth that we're anticipating.
Good evening. I'm Natalie Allen, and I have been a resident of the Hilltop community for 42 years. And one of my concerns that I have about the planning for this area is it sounds like they're really planning a lot of transient housing in this community. Transient housing does not add to the value of our community. Our property values go down when you have so many apartments and people that are just transient going in and out of the community. It's not really building a solid community. And I'm just wondering, it sounds to me as though that is one of the things that you're really trying to create here. What kind of community are you really trying to create, and how can we have a larger, how can we really try to make it a more of a community of homes and not townhouses and apartments? When I looked at one of your slides, it went from 20 to 100 and something, then you said it could be 200. Now, have you realized how many people you're bringing into this community? And you're talking a lot about bicycles. Well, this morning, actually, we had someone on a bicycle break into one of our cars at 4 in the morning. It was in 4 in the morning, or 3:30 or 4 in the morning. We're noticing a lot of transients coming in and out of this community. You also spoke about the park. We have a park here that is not being kept at all. So why are we having another one planned when there's not one being cared for already? So those are two of my concerns.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that question, and thank you for airing those concerns. It's all good stuff to hear. I think to your question around transient, I think what we want to do is create a diversity in this plan area, and diversity of housing type, diversity of resident, but most of actually the housing that's been that we're thinking about would be in a townhome fashion, and so that really could be just ownership as much as rental. So. And they likely tend towards ownership more than being rentals anyway. So, we still have a lot to kind of get through on the ultimate, the ultimate amount of, medium density versus high density. But we hear what you're saying. We understand the concern around that. But I think what we're trying to have is a diversity of housing and product type. I think related to bikes, what we really like to do is, make sure that the area is safe for things other than cars, right? So if people want to migrate through the site without needing to get into a car, we think that's a good thing. We understand the concern about folks on bikes creating crimes. I think there's folks that can get in cars and create crimes as well. But certainly understand that concern. And then lastly, the parks. Look, I mean, this is something that we can, have a conversation about as we go down the road. It's a great thing that you mentioned about the park that's not being used, and how do these parks actually talk to each other? How do these open spaces communicate? How do they get taken care of? I think those are all questions that are valid and need to be answered, and that's something that we'll do as we move forward.
Hello. I found that the presentation focused more on housing, and while housing is important, what are we really going to do for the community to make them proud to be in the community? If we're just trying to have more housing, how are we going to implement retail in a way that we don't have to go outsourcing, go to Pinot, go to Hercules, just to do simple things like grocery shopping? How are we going to keep Richmond tax dollars in Richmond?
All great questions. So I think that's something that we will be working on, right? Like, what is the proper retail mix? What are the proper retail tenants to bring in that can serve Richmond residents? I mean, I think that's something that we want to hear from you guys about. What do you all want to see? What's important to you all? The housing, obviously, the roofs actually do drive the success of the retail as well. So it is something that is necessary. But certainly, we want this retail to be successful not only for the project itself, but for the outlying community. And as we go through this process, we're going to want to talk to you guys and understand from you all what is important. We understand grocery stores are important, so that's something that we certainly have our eye on. And other supplemental retail that serves the neighborhood as well. So that's a work in progress, just like the land use plan, but will certainly be something that we'll take in a keen eye to.
Thank you. Next, you have a question, comment?
Right, finally. So, somewhat I'm echoing the second question makers, and I'm echoing. And it's not just the Hilltop Mall being torn down that's my only concern. It's the community's behavior in general, because I should bring up about a woman who worked at Pathway to Choices. There's an image of her on Pathway to Choices Yelp page under the title Christmas Party. And I remember her being this vibrant personality, even played roof lawyer in an art project. She was in her early 40s at the time, and she was driven to lifelessness by overworking, by the bureaucratic uppers. And what was it? I'm not done yet. And it is an ongoing problem because just a couple of months ago, I was subject to police brutality at my parents' house when I was trying to recover my dad's ashes. And when I tried calling it out on Nextdoor, I was subject to somebody named Bri Wilson accusing me of trolling and false reporting me. And what was it? And yeah. suffice to say that the community really should pick up the slack because I'm hoping that these concerns are at least taken, especially when I had to deal with a maggot-filled toilet when I was a kid, and hopefully you can take at these problems like sanitation and the soul of the community, especially. I swear.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. Next, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Julius. I've been a Richmond resident for about 5 years. I really love it here. So I have two questions, perhaps also for the city of Richmond. You mentioned this very vague economic driver who's coming in. I think we deserve to know who this driver is. Lena or Hector, please.
So the group has asked to remain confidential because, first of all, we don't know if something's really going to evolve with this conversation. They just came in sort of late. And so I will say that it's something that we heard during the community process that you all wanted to see, which is why we're taking a pause. So I apologize, I can't say anything. We definitely don't want to have them go away if they're asking for confidentiality for the moment. But I do think that we're ready to move forward, and so we're just going to give it a pause for a couple of months with the goal of coming back to you all and keeping the item moving. So.
Thank you, Lena. You're done with your question? Okay.
My second question is, for the retail shops that you've mentioned have been struggling to sign up for this, what are you doing to entice and perhaps give grants to those new businesses who want to start at the Hilltop Mall? Thank you.
Well, I mean, I think Hilltop Mall it didn't make it as a mall. And it's not, the vision isn't to recreate a new mall, it's to create a new neighborhood with, home ownership and housing and retail and parks and a new neighborhood up there. Some of that would include retail, but at this point it's too early because, again, I'm having a hard time telling you here what will be studied, partly because of some new things that have come up, but I have a hard time going to a retailer and say, this may or may not be approved in the next couple years. We're not sure what's going to be here yet, but we'd like you to sign up. So typically what we'll try and do is, through our experience collectively, we reserve a good amount of space for a retail center. And then we have an understanding that, maybe this might be a grocery anchored type of retail center and other types of shops and uses that we want to go with that. And we try and design the broad aspects of it. And when we get closer to having something that we think will be acceptable to the community and the council and gets approved, then we will in earnest be working with potential retailers who would potentially be interested in coming to the area.
Good evening, and thank you so much for the presentation. I'm really thrilled to see forward progress in this area, and especially excited to see mixed-use development at the Hilltop Mall, and excited to see that it's not going to be, it sounds like, a logistics center. I have a couple of questions. One is, there was a lot of discussion about public transportation and greater connectivity, bicycle paths, walking paths. I'm curious about public transportation, and this might be more of a question for the city. I'm probably going to get half boos, half claps, but have there been any discussions or explorations about extending BART to Hilltop? And or if there could just be any further details about public transportation, because it's not a very walkable area. Second point to that is that whole stretch, San Pablo from Robert Miller south has a great new bike lane and sidewalk. Robert Miller north lots of pedestrians and bicyclists. I've seen lethal accidents, no lights, no sidewalks, no bike paths. So I'd love to hear more about if there's anything incorporated in the specific plan about that. Second question is about the industrial component of the plan. Both the Prologis signature schemes and the city schemes showed an option where there was an industrial employment section of the plan, and I'm curious if there's any further details that you can provide about what type of industrial. Obviously, it's surrounded by residential, so anything that you can offer about that would be great.
Yeah, I'll take the responses to these, but so as far as the industrial employment center option, that was early in the city, in the concept as it was presented, but we went to Planning Commission and City Council, and it wasn't really, it was not desired to continue, so we've since removed that. So the concept plan that Hector presented no longer has this employment industrial overlay. It's now a mixed-use retail component next to where the Walmart is currently, and that was sort of the lifestyle retail shopping center that I think we kept hearing a lot about. So that's no longer in the plan. Now, in terms of the transit and the connectivity, so we've been meeting with AC Transit and WestCat, who both currently serve the site. They have desired over the last, multiple years to create more opportunities to bring more bus service to the site, and obviously having more activity would provide a driver to do that. So that's one thing that we're looking at. I think at the city council meeting, they've also mentioned new technologies. Glideways was one of the technologies that we were asked to explore, which we'll do once we know what the land use drivers are. So once we have a plan, I think what excites us now, and we heard this early on in the process from the community, was don't just bring us a plan. Bring us a plan with the project so that we can see redevelopment soon. And we're excited that, we have interested parties, and hopefully, with this new opportunity, there'll be another employment. I think somebody wants more retail, we want more jobs, more services. So we're hoping all of that comes together. And so I think in the next 3 or 4 months, we'll have more to share. I apologize, I can't say more, but I think it is a good opportunity that we want to continue to explore, and just appreciate all the comments and feedback, which is why we said, let's just come give everybody an update, hear some reactions to where we were going. And there may, because it's by no means expected to be perfect right now, because we know that through this public comment period, and certainly when we get to the Planning Commission and the City Council, there's going to be slight adjustments to even what we presented this evening. So, pass back.
Good evening. I was here for the first revamp of the mall. We talked about a skating rink, a bowling alley, something to bring the money back to Richmond. We talked about better places to eat. I have to go to San Ramon just to have fun and get better food. We need something like that here at the mall. We're tired of the parks. We have plenty of them. We have plenty of bike paths. We have plenty of walking paths. We need something new, different to bring the money back to Richmond.
Hi, my name's Wyatt. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's my first meeting here. I've lived here for about 5 years now. But one thing that I did look, and I agreed with some of the things that were mentioned, although I think residential is important to have, affordable housing and everything, I am concerned that the amount of real estate, like the lady just mentioned, for residential, storefront, schools and stuff like that, the 70, I believe it was 7,300, residential dwellings that you guys are or the maximum amount. It's concerning that the retail space on the map was so small. Another thing is, 3 weeks ago, I went to Home Depot myself and I bought asphalt, and I was filling potholes in the neighborhood. And I'm spending my own money that is taxed, that I pay. I'm a social worker, I don't make much money, but I'm over here fixing things, bringing, edge trimmer and trimming plants right alongside the neighborhood, and it's pretty frustrating, you know? I drive here every single day, commuting, you know, from the hospital where I work at, and it's a shame that the price that we paid for our house, the tax dollars that we're paying, and although it's going to be beautiful to see right across the street, is I'm very concerned about our own neighborhood right here. You know, I shouldn't be paying and doing things that I feel like the city should be doing on your guys' behalf.
Hello, thank you for all the comments. My name is Sohaila Bana. I'm representative at the City Council. I just wanted to let you know if there are potholes, if there are issues in the community, anything, please reach out to me. The only thing I heard from your community was lighting. Some of the lightings were not working and they were addressed. Our Public Works is doing a great job. Again, my name is Sohaila, last name Bana. I'll be around after the meeting if you want to talk to me directly. But you have a city council that works for you. I definitely am dedicated to address your concerns, and Public Works is doing a great job. Reach out. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm an iron worker, 27, 28 years, a restaurant worker. I've been up here 33 years. The mall was great. We had a lot of stuff. We had Safeway, we had Lucky's, we had Outback, we had some theaters. We had a lot of stuff going on up here. So the idea of you putting more residents in here, what is the value of the residents going to be for them condominiums? What is the value? How are you going to put that in the neighborhood to keep the other houses up? And, you know, the community of coming through Hilltop, you know, it's a short drive, but you're going to impact a lot, bringing a lot of housing in here. So, I mean, you got the area right now, and you had the malls. Most of them people went to Walnut Creek or Concord to the malls because the guys in that mall was too high. So what are y'all going to do about that? I mean, you want to bring more people here, but how many more?
It's a great question. Look, we think the best way to add value for the area is to create a wonderful neighborhood. You know, is that parks, is it housing, is it, you know, more beautiful streets that are maintained, et cetera. That's one of the ways to help preserve value in the area and enhance value in the area. And the retailers have basically spoken. They're not interested in it. We don't control the big retailers, but they have moved to different places, and the mall basically just didn't work. And this was a long time ago, well before our involvement. So what we're trying to do is also then use some of those new housing to be able to entice new retailers in, and you know, maybe some of the existing ones will then want to invest in the area and make nicer facilities and grow their bases. So it's a combination of all that. There's no magic solutions. We don't know exactly how much housing, we don't know how much it'll cost yet, because we have to, you know, the city has to conduct the studies about, you know, how much, you know, housing can be supported here, or what type of housing, et cetera. So we're working with the city staff on that. We'll continue to work with you guys. That's why we're here today, because we want to establish a relationship with you all, not just at big meetings like this, but at smaller. We'll come over to your house and we'll talk.
What's the demographic of the amount of money here? Like, is everybody making $100,000 here, $50,000, $60,000? I mean, you're checking that number out to find out what the housing going to be.
Yeah, we're not sure yet, though, because we just don't, we don't have direction on how much housing is there. So we can chat after. We're not going anywhere, so I'll come to, say hello to you. But it's kind of this, it's a process we have to go through. The city is doing a specific plan process. We'd love to be able to bring our plan into that process, but we need to have better clarity as to what that plan looks like before we can introduce ours. Great questions.
Hi, Bhavin Khatri, President of the Hilltop District Neighborhood Council. First of all, I want to thank you, Prologis, Signature Group, the City Council, and the Planning Department for gathering here, and hoping to see you all on the 29th as well on the Zoom meeting. And I actually have a comment for the council members that are here. So as you know, one of the things that you've heard is that we want development soon, right? So we don't want a 50-year plan, we want a 5-year plan to deliver this. So as it is, this has been delayed quite a bit for a variety of reasons and some of our legitimate reasons. But we really want to encourage the council to move this process forward. You have a very capable planning department, so trust their judgment. When they come to you, please try to move through this quickly so that we can see development here soon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eric Haynes. I'm a business representative with Sheet Metal Workers Local 104, part of the Contra Costa Building Trades Council. A lot of interest in what's going to be built, what type of product, etc. All we keep hearing over the years is we need more construction workers. That's why we can't get stuff built fast enough. So I want to know, what are you guys going to do? Not to promote, like some of your slides say about certain parts of this project, but to guarantee that this is going to be a project that's going to have a pipeline for apprentices that are registered with the state of California and joint labor management apprenticeships, so that we can fill that gap that we have right now with the skilled and trained workforce. How are we going to build something like this in 5 years if we don't have the workforce to do it right now, because apprentices aren't being used that are registered with the state of California? They're not being trained in a 5-year apprenticeship program right now. What are you going to do about that? Thank you.
Thanks for that. So, I mean, we're really trying to do is figure out what our plan is to start with. We don't have a plan to start with. So we're working with the city to start the foundation for a plan, and then we will come talk to all stakeholders, including our friends in labor, and our community neighbors and other stakeholders and advocates and interested parties. So we don't really have a lot to talk about other than some general vision and the fact that we've been working with staff to start to lay the foundation of a specific plan process.
I just say, get her done, please. I've lived here for 11 years, and I love it here. And my neighbors tell me that there used to be an ice rink, that the mall used to have many, more than one movie theater. People have to remember what killed the mall. It was Amazon and it was Walmart. Who do we have now in the mall? Amazon and Walmart. I love it that Richmond is doing a workaround. And housing is a crisis. People who used to have nice homes and RVs are now living in their RVs. And I'm glad that Richmond is doing something about it.
Good evening. My name is Don Gosney. This is my 70th year here in Richmond. Also, by the way, 54 years with the Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 342. First off, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank the city representatives for being here. It was a great presentation. Whatever we learned here, it's a lot more than what we knew an hour and a half ago. And that's a good thing on there. But I want to piggyback on one of the comments that was made here. This is a working class neighborhood. You don't live here. We do. This is working class city. This is a blue collar city. This is a union city. So everything you do, I hope you keep in mind that if you think about using union workers to build it and unionized businesses, it's going to go a lot smoother for you than if you come out there like the previous owner and say they want to drive all unions into the ground. But the main reason I came up here, I really appreciated the presentation. Even though those screens are extremely big, very, very difficult to read the text on there or follow it. We'll all have to go out and pull up the plan online so we can study it. But one thing that I noticed there that has me a little bit worried, it seems like you're building a community within a community, isolated from the rest of West County, isolated from Richmond. You're cutting off the main road around Hilltop and turning it into a bicycle pedestrian. So you really have virtually no access from the Hilltop off-ramp. You have to get off Hilltop, go all the way to the the old side where the Firestone was, and then make a sharp right turn to go right down the middle of it. And so how are you supposed to attract people from outside of this area? And I don't mean from San Ramon or Walnut Creek, I mean from downtown Richmond, where I live, or from Pinole. How are they supposed to get here if we make it so difficult to actually drive here? Because they're not going to be able to walk. I'm not going to walk from East Richmond to here. I'm not going to bicycle from East Richmond to here. And so it seems like everything is geared towards the people that are going to live here and work there, so that they can use the parks, they can use the walkways, they can use the bicycle paths. That's not going to benefit the rest of us. I'm already getting the hook over here, so telling me to shut up.
So first off, all these ideas are initial ideas. Nothing's set in stone, and it all has to be studied. So there'll be a traffic engineering study that will come as part of this. And just to clarify, we weren't looking to do a bicycle and pedestrian around the entire ring. It was just in the north part. We thought it would be nice to have a park up there with views out to the water. The rest of it would still be eminently usable, and the point would be not to make it harder to get to and from. But sometimes we will look at those and say, do you need 5 lanes there? Which is basically what you have now, or could we look to add larger sidewalks and some street trees and really beautify that? And so those are the things we're going to study. They may be bad ideas, and the traffic studies will point that out to us, or you, the community, will point that out to us. So again, we're happy to sit down with you, but we're throwing out some initial ideas that we thought would beautify the neighborhood and kind of humanize some of the scale of those streets.
Thank you for that. For all of you that don't know, my name is Ardo Rentila, and I'm retired from the Carpenters Union, Millwright Union. 35 years I was a union advocate, so I will make sure and fight very hard to make sure that there's a PLA once this is up and going. I'm sure they'll be having a project labor agreement, so rest assured it should be union. With that, I don't see any more comments or questions, so I guess we're going to call this meeting, and I want to thank Prologis, Signature, and the City of Richmond, and the mayor and city council people for coming. Thank you all. Thank you very much.